Hello, everybody. Coming to you live from somewhere. Isn't that from a song? Hey, everybody. How's it going? We are back. Oh, are we ever back for an episode today, I tell you. It is September the 15th. How in the world is 2023 going by so quickly? September 23rd. September 15th, 2023. Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern. You know what time it is, folks. It's time for the Visto show. And boy, do we have a doozer for you today. Hopefully everybody's doing well. If you're watching this live on LinkedIn, can you hear me okay? Can you see me okay? Can you drop a hello or a thumbs up in the chat? Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know how you're doing. We got a big episode today. It's going to be a lot of heavy-hitting topics. It's going to be a lot of strong opinions. It's going to be, hopefully, a lot of insight and feedback from you folks as well on what you're thinking, what you're feeling, where your head's at, all that kind of stuff. So you can see the agenda live on screen here. What we're going to do is we're going to do a quick update that relates to the whole discussion around international students, right? A couple weeks ago, they were talking about capping them. This week, they're talking about a two-tier program. Every week, apparently, it's something else. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get deep into that. That'll probably be the main discussion point for today. Andra says, hi, Josh, I can hear you. Hey, Andra, thanks for tuning in. If you are watching this after the fact on YouTube, then thank you for watching this after the fact on YouTube. But if you want to tune in live, make sure you're following me on LinkedIn so you can hopefully take part of the discussion. That's the most fun part, right? Is having folks like Andra with me here live on LinkedIn. We can share ideas back and forth. We can converse about stuff. So anyways, probably the meat of this episode, we're going to do a quick update. We're going to hear about what the Canadian provinces think about the cap on international students. We're going to do a little bit of digging into what the ministers are saying. We're going to talk about the proposed two-tier program and what I think about it. I'm not going to give you any hints, but it's somewhat negative. From there, we're going to do a really quick express entry update. Spoiler alert, nothing has happened, but we'll talk about that and kind of what it means for those of you who are either in the immigration industry or thinking about express entry sometime in the future. I'm going to briefly do a summary of a big webinar I was on this week. If you didn't see my LinkedIn post from yesterday, I was on a really exciting webinar Wednesday morning, hosted by Journey Business Plans, highly recommended company if you need business plans for immigration purposes, and Zainab, fellow Canadian immigration lawyer, and we talked about AI in the immigration industry. I focused a little bit more on the private side, how immigration firms are leveraging AI in different tools, and Zainab talked a lot about how the government is using AI for processing and their efficiencies or lack thereof on their end. Verinder says, hello, Josh. Hey, Verinder, thank you very much for tuning in. If you are tuning in, you want to drop a hello, or if anything I'm about to talk about prompts any ideas, any thoughts, anything like that, then feel free to chime in. After that, I have a big Visto update, maybe one of the biggest company updates in quite some time that I'm going to share. I may need your help in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, depending on how the next 20, 25 minutes go. And then, of course, Q&A if there are any questions at the end. We usually have you out of here in about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how many Q&As there are. So with that being said, as you know if you've watched before, the sip of water is the key to the segue. So let's jump into the first topic, the two-tier program for international students. Now, as a quick summary, and I'm going to share my screen here, we know that a couple weeks ago, there was some talk around should IRCC cap international students, and I found there was some interesting news on what the different provinces are saying. So before we talk about that two-tiered system, I just wanted to highlight this Global News article, because they reached out to the specific governments, and I thought it kind of interesting to hear what the different governments had to say. So for example, and you know what, I'll put the link to this in the comments so that if you folks would like, you can follow along here, or you can just watch my screen. 3 provinces, BC, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland and Labrador, told Global that they had not been consulted on any proposed cap. Only the government of Northwest Territories said it had been in contact with Ottawa. The GNWT has been in discussions. While not the main focus, a proposed cap has been mentioned. A BC government official said at this time provincial officials responsible have not been contacted by IRCC. A spokesperson for Newfoundland and Labrador said international students were the crucial part, blah, blah, blah. New Brunswick said international students have been an integral part to the province. So basically what it sounds like, the government of Saskatchewan told Global News it thinks the province and its institutions are in the best position to determine the appropriate number. As such, we find no justification for implementing such a restriction. So it seems like all the provinces are against it. Quebec, too, said it's working to attract international students, particularly Francophone students. Ontario, which is home to nearly half of all international students, said in a statement that while the federal government was responsible for immigration policy, all levels of government have a role to play in supporting the welcoming of international students. But they did not state whether it would support any kind of cap. I mean, if you think about it, why would any province support a cap on international students, right? Education, as we know, is a provincially managed topic, thing, right? Whatever you want to call it. Immigration is federal. Education is provincial. International students make up a huge revenue stream for all of these colleges and universities in the different provinces, right? So I don't see why any province would be for a cap, right, on international students, because so many of these provinces, not only do their schools make so much money, but international students play a huge part in the economy, right? Working, buying food, paying rent, blah, 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 bringing family members, right? It's a huge part. So, I mean, this is not surprising, I guess, to see that, here, Alberta has 90,000 job vacancies, right? So, of course they're looking for international students to fill those gaps, right? So this is one of the many reasons why I think putting a cap to begin with was kind of a dumb idea. But anyways, we'll get into that a little bit more. Fakir says, hope everything is good. I sent you a message. Oh, yeah, Fakir, we're not going to cover, like, immigrating itself to Canada. If you have questions specifically about immigrating to Canada or you want help with that, just shoot me a DM and I can introduce you to someone who might be able to help. The next article I wanted to quickly... again, another article, this is from CBC, talking about what the ministers are saying, and then saying that the cap is opposed by major universities. I mean, again, obvious, right? If I'm a university, or a college for that matter, where do you make most of your money from? International students pay the highest tuition, right? It's a fact, right? It's public information. It's in a lot of cases posted on their websites, right? So you have all these provinces saying we shouldn't put a cap on. You have all of the schools quite obviously saying there shouldn't be a cap, because what's a school going to do if they, if now their international students are limited? And then lastly, just a summary. I found this as a pretty good summary from the ISEF website on one of their thoughts is to quote unquote modernize student visa program with the trusted institution framework. So this is what I really wanted to cover quickly and go through it, give my opinion, hear your opinion on what you think of this idea, right? So hey, maybe we don't have to cap international students. Maybe we just need to fix the program, which is a good line of thinking until we get to this. So, Canada will establish, or maybe is thinking of establishing, a two-tiered structure for designated learning institutions starting in 2024, where some DLIs will be designated as trusted institutions. Applicants to trusted institutions will receive expedited visa processing. The move is part of a larger strategy to modernize Canadian Immigration's International Student Program. It comes amid growing concerns around access to housing for visiting students and discussion of a cap on international students in Canada. Okay. Gloria says, yes, I can hear you. Awesome, Gloria. Thanks for tuning in. I want to discuss this quickly because, in my opinion, it makes absolutely no sense. So for those who don't know how the kind of industry works right now, in order to come to Canada, my chair is making a lot of noise. All right, folks, I didn't have a lot of beans for breakfast. That's just the chair makes a lot of noise, I promise. The way it works in Canada for international students is like this. If you want to come to Canada on a study permit and graduate and be eligible for what's called a postgraduate work permit, you have to do this through a designated learning institution, otherwise known as a DLI, right? So these schools have to be designated in order to have international students and those students be eligible for post-grad work permits. This is obviously extremely important because any student who wants to settle and stay in Canada wants that PGWP post-grad work permit because it allows them to stay and get that first job or two and get skilled work experience, make some money, and hopefully make their way towards PR. But now what the idea that seems to be floating around is they're going to have a two-tiered structure, and only some of these DLIs are going to be designated as quote-unquote trusted institutions. So the first question that comes into my head is, so what does that mean about the rest of the institutions? Are you saying that the government, or whoever the regulatory body is, has designated this list of learning institutions, but a whole bunch of them can't be trusted? So then why are we letting them accept students and letting them print out graduate letters and PGWPs? It makes no sense to me. Would not the easiest solution here to be, hey, maybe we need to rethink the DLI designation? Because what's happened in Canada over the years? Now you have all these fake satellite colleges. They set up an office anywhere. Oh, I'm based in Toronto, but we have a satellite office and we're actually based in whereversville, Ontario, right? And now you can start accepting international students. A lot of these programs are even just remote, so you don't even need a ton of in-person classes. They only accept international students who are paying $15,000+ a year. And their programs might be crap. They might be good. I don't know. Their teachers might be crap. I don't know. And they spin off these 1, 2, 3-year college programs and they just spit out graduate students, right? That's what's happened with a lot of, private colleges around the country, which has helped inflate a lot of these numbers, right? Andrew says, don't we already have a two-tier system? Only certain DLIs qualify for PGWP? Andrew, I think all of the DLIs qualify for PGWP. I can't remember. I think they all do. I can look it up in a second as well, or if anybody knows off the top of their head. But I think unless you graduate from a DLI, then you're not eligible for a PGWP, I believe. Let's check. Postgrad work permit. Let's double check this. Eligibility requirements. Completed a blah 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 at an eligible institution in Canada that's at least 8 months in duration. So I guess what is eligible? Does it define what eligible institution means, or why doesn't it just say DL? Oh, here. They must have graduated from an eligible designated learning institution. Yeah, so I think it's any DLI, Andra, is fine. They must also submit clear evidence that they meet all the following. So it has to be at least 8 months in duration, maintain full-time status, got the transcript, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I don't understand. If you're going to all of a sudden create a trusted institutions list, you're basically saying, hey, there's X% of our DLIs that should not be trusted, right? That's my interpretation, which then leads me to think, well, why don't we just make the DLI designation actually mean something instead of just giving everyone and their mother the designation of being a DLI, right? Runali says, not being rude, but we're getting more and more student programs coming up. I guess it's just trapping public who doesn't know the reality of actual situation inside Canada. Those who are here struggling to get PR, there's nothing coming up for them. It's completely unfair. Please correct if I'm wrong, Josh. Runali, you're not wrong, but I think everybody is going about this the wrong way, right? There apparently are a lot of job shortages in Canada. The problem, Runali, is, again, we have all of these DLIs. We're funneling hundreds and hundreds of thousands of international students into these random schools that may or may not be legitimate. They may or may not have good programs, and they may or may not lead to getting a promising job from when they graduate, right? It doesn't matter how many students you send into college. It matters how well those students are going to be when they graduate, and whether their skills and learning experiences and degree aligns with what's needed in Canada, right? So, for example, Runali, what we need right now in Canada, apparently, is more people in trades to build houses, more healthcare workers, right, to fill the hospitals and the old folks' homes. Maybe some tech workers. I don't know if we need as much anymore, but probably some tech workers. Apparently, we need French speakers, agricultural workers and stuff like that. Okay? Meanwhile, every year we're funneling hundreds of thousands of international students into like 2-year business admin degrees, right? So what happens? You get 300,000 students graduating, and they're all looking for like a business admin related job, which we don't really have many openings for. And now everyone's competing for the same thing that doesn't actually really have a shortage in our market, right? Why? Because schools just want to keep filling their classrooms and collecting tuition. The study abroad agents want to keep collecting their referrals, so they just keep sending students to the same programs over and over again, right? Nobody's incentivized to make it better. Andrew says, if you click the DLI list, it says which ones qualify for PGWP. Oh, okay, let me pull this up here. Thanks, Andrew. Designated learning list. You need an acceptance letter from a DLI. So this is to apply for a study permit. Okay, so there's the difference. To apply for a study permit, it can be from any DLI, but not everyone necessarily gets you a PGWP. Okay. So, here we go. Not all designated DLIs and not all programs of study make you eligible for the post-grad work program. Okay, Andrea, thank you for the correction there. So you must apply to a DLI to get the study permit, but that does not necessarily mean that you're going to get a PGWP. All right? But that's I think fine, but like why don't we just, cuz here's my problem with it, Andrew. Now we already kind of have, as you said, we already kind of have a 2-tier system. So now if we do this, we're turning it into a 3-tier system, right? What school is good enough to apply for a study permit? What school is actually going to get you a PGWP? What school is going to get you expedited visa processing, right? Why don't we, like, my biggest gripe with IRCC is that over the last 3 years, they've just used Band-Aid solution after Band-Aid solution. And what happens when that happens is you just inflate how complicated immigration is, right? I talked about this a couple weeks ago when we talked about the H-1B program, right? If Canada needs tech workers, just invite people through the STEM draw of express entry. If Canada needs new tech workers, just make the global talent stream fast again. Don't create a new program that confuses people even more and target 10,000 H-1Bs that might not even come to Canada, right? So let's apply this to this situation. What is our problem? We have probably too many students coming in and we're not actually setting them up for success. So what should we do? Okay, let's not fix the problem with DLIs. Let's just slap an extra designation on top called trusted institutions. Now the other thing is, this still doesn't fix the bad DLIs, it just gives expedited visa processing to the quote-unquote trusted institutions. Another issue, if the government or the designated bodies already screwed up in who they're accepting as a DLI, how are we know they're going to make good decisions in picking the trusted institutions? Is it just going to be the schools that schmooze the best and lobby the most with the government that are going to get designations as trusted institutions? Like it just, none of it makes sense to me. Verinder says, in my opinion, we only need diversification without any caps. I think we need, Verinder, I think that's part of the solution, but one small part of the solution. Andrew says, yeah, that makes no sense. It boggles my mind how the government's been pretty decent at uncovering the problems that we need to fix and just totally band-aid solutioning every single one. Never going to the root of the problem and saying, let's fix this problem from the ground up, right? And I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but let me summarize what's wrong with the international student space, right? Most students live outside Canada. They're being guided by unregulated professionals who are pushing them to any school and program that has a high acceptance rate because that's how they earn their commission. Schools in Canada are charging whatever the heck they want for international students because they know they can get away with it. All these random satellite colleges are popping up because they know they can just print money off international students. There's no interest in the students leading a successful life afterwards, right? So they're taking programs that aren't necessarily going to fill a labor shortage in Canada, which means they're going to have a very hard time finding a job and getting PR. The school doesn't care, right? Once they've graduated, they've collected the tuition. School doesn't care what the students are doing. Students are now stuck in Canada, and the only choice they have is to basically like work under the table and or pay people illegally for LMIAs so they can get a high enough express entry score to get PR, right? Or marry a Canadian or, go through a PNP. The whole thing is misaligned. There's shady dealers every single step of the way. There's shady immigration consultants. There's shady immigration professionals. There's shady, I'm not saying all, I'm saying there are some at every step of the way. Immigration advisors, immigration consultants, immigration lawyers, I'm sure there's some shady ones of those too. Study abroad agents. There's shady schools, right? There's shady colleges. They probably shouldn't be DLIs to begin with, but hey, why would we look at that as a problem when we can just slap a trusted institution badge, right? There's shady employers in Canada that are requiring that staff pay them for LMIAs because they know the staff don't have any other option. It's their only ticket to get PR. Now IRCC, which we're about to talk about in a minute, has stopped doing express entry draws with, again, no information about how or why. So the international students are basically getting screwed every single step of the way. Probably the biggest problem is that they're not even aware of it until they graduate and they can't get PR and they're depressed and they're upset and they're broke, and then they probably just eventually say, well, I got to go home because it's clearly not going to work here, right? Every step of the way we're hanging them out to dry. Every step of the way they're not getting the support and the information and the education that they need. It's a huge problem. And to just slap a trusted institution stamp on some schools and call it a day, it's such a shame. It's such a huge shame. Anyways, I don't want to belabor the point, right? Let me know if you would agree, disagree, thoughts on that. I don't want to keep ranting for too long, although hopefully that you enjoyed it a little bit. Runali says, considering myself graduated in 2020, got the field job in corporate banking, applied in TR to PR, no response for 2 years, and randomly rejected the application. The points for CEC are 471, qualified under program-specific draw, but where's the points going beyond 490? At the moment, I feel I'm somewhere standing alone in a jungle with no clue. So this is a comment that Runali just posted live on LinkedIn that highlights exactly what I just talked about, right? Runali, I'm just going to use this as an example. I wish you the best, but this is like a perfect example of the struggles, right? You came to Canada, you got a job in banking. For some reason, IRCC rejected your TR to PR application after 2 years. You have a pretty good CEC score at 471, but now there's no draws below 490, and you don't know what the heck to do. So I feel for you, Runali. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully, part of why I have this show and have these discussions is just to try and let people know what the heck is going on here, right? This is more than just random ministers throwing around stupid ideas, right? These are like real people, international students who are real people who've been misguided, not guided enough, not being told the true story, charged tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over that that experience, and totally left out to dry. It's very sad. I really hope that the government can come up with a better solution than slapping a trusted institution tag on a couple schools and calling it a day. Anyways, we will continue to follow this story, this is obviously not the end of this conversation. If you know of somebody that might be interested in my opinion or some of these thoughts, or maybe this opinion could kind of help shape some people and motivate the right people in the right places. I don't work for the government, right? So I can't make any of these decisions. But Jesus, I think we're really letting down an entire industry. Problem is, there's just too many people making a lot of money from it. So we'll have to see what happens. I got to keep moving here, folks, because that rant lasted for a little bit longer than expected. So this is a really quick update on Express Entry. I don't have to make this longer than a minute or two. Let me just refresh my page. Yeah. So still no Express Entry draw. It's been exactly a month. Here's the problem I have. If you're not going to do a draw for over a month, sure, Immigration Canada, do whatever you want. I'm sure you have your reasons. Why can't you just tell us what's happening and why? Right? I'm not an immigrant. I'm not in Runali's shoes. But I've advised, as an immigration lawyer, I've advised and tried to advise hundreds, maybe even thousands of clients over the last 7 years. What the heck am I supposed to tell a client right now about Express Entry? What am I supposed to tell to Runali? Runali's in Canada. She's spent tens of thousands of dollars on tuition. She's working. She's paying taxes, blah, blah, blah. She's trying to get PR. She's already been rejected once. Draws have been very high, unless you fall under the industry-specific one. And now you just stop doing draws. What are we supposed to tell clients? We're driving in more than total darkness here, right? So again, if there's one thing I think IRCC could improve on, is just a little bit of transparency would go such a long way. Not just for aspiring immigrants, but for all the immigration professionals that are trying to give them advice. You can't give anybody advice on Express Entry right now. We have no clue what the heck's going to happen, right? I think in the last episode, I showed you guys the math on why they're slowing down draws, because their target for Express Entry this year was around 82,000, and they've already invited something like 78,000 people to apply. But can we just get some semblance of an idea? Are draws going to be paused for a month, 2 months? Are you done for the year? Are you going to invite another 5,000, another 10,000? Just have a little bit of decency so that people can plan for their future. That's my request on behalf of all the aspiring immigrants out there that are struggling to get PR in Canada, and all the immigration professionals who I talk to every week. And they struggle because they try to help their clients and they can't. Because what the heck are we supposed to say, right? Runali says it's not just costing thousands of dollars, it's costing mental disturbances every single morning, high aspirations but disappointment, giving up on the future and whatnot. It goes far beyond money, right, Runali? And I'm not going to be able to fully reflect or appreciate the struggle that you're going through. But again, part of why I have this show and highlight comments like yours is to get the word out there, right? There are people like Runali, they wake up every day and they're trying to think, how the heck do I get PR so I can just stay in the country that I like living in? I think, maybe you do, that you dedicated all this time and energy and resources and taxes towards, and now you don't even know if and when you might be able to stay or not. Earl says, in my view, there are a lot of problems with the trusted institutions approach, aside from mass litigation that is likely to occur. Agreed, Earl. As I mentioned earlier, let's see if we have any overlap. I lost your comment. I don't know if you want to repost or edit, Earl, but anyways, I think there's there we go. There it is. Number 1, a good list and a dark list sure doesn't help the brand Canada image abroad. Yeah. I mean, I agree, Earl. If you designate a school as trusted, what does it mean for the DLIs that are not trusted, right? It's just, you're slapping them right in the face, and you're not even fixing any of the problems. Number 2, students who cannot connect to the good list are highly likely to supplement bad list applications to schools in competitor countries. Yeah, so if you're set on Canada, but you can't get accepted to a trusted institution, then you might throw a few applications as shots in the dark at Canada, but switch away from Canada and just go to another country, which honestly, by the looks of it, might not be a bad idea. Number 3, a good list, bad list is surely also going to impact employers' impression, and the students scramble to change DLIs by any means necessary after entry. That's true. So now, as a student, if you do get accepted into a DLI that's not trusted, and you graduate, and now you're applying for a job, and one student is applying who's graduated from a trusted institution, and one student is applying maybe with higher marks, but they graduated from a school that's not a trusted institution, does that affect the decision making of Canadian employers? I don't know. Maybe in the same way that someone applying from Harvard as compared to, whatever SU random school, it might come into play. Not a comprehensive list of concerns, which would also include massive government blind spots on how this list is created in the first place. The list would obviously favor public institutions, some of whom definitely don't deserve it, and in some cases actually top the list of bad actors in certain areas. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Earl, I think, as I mentioned earlier when I started this topic, number one, I don't see what good comes out of turning the DLI list into a good list, bad list. If anything, all it does is it slaps the term DLI in the face. Because if you can't trust all of the DLIs, then what is the point of a designation as a DLI, right? The other thing is just giving them expedited processing. What is that fixing? It just means more students are going to apply to the trusted institutions. But what if the same amount of students are getting approved every year? Like this doesn't fix the problem. What if the same amount of students come into Canada, but more of them are going to trusted institutions, but they're still taking the same random programs that don't actually lead them to a successful career in Canada? It doesn't fix any problem. I really don't understand how it fixes the problem. In my opinion, you recalibrate the requirements of being a DLI, and they should go with a fine-tooth pen, or whatever the term is, pin, go through every DLI and make them re-earn the designation as a DLI. And make sure that if you're a school, you better be legit, otherwise you're not on the DLI list, period, right? Then we just get rid of all the garbage. Anyways, maybe that just is too simplistic. I don't know. Ronali says even there's no further decisions for the next year if we can apply for work permit extension. I guess that's only applicable for people whose work permit about to expire. It'll be interesting to see, Ronali, if they extend some of those exemptions for PGWPs. We don't know, right? Because, again, the government doesn't tell us anything. So, anyways, we will have to see. Let's keep moving along. I did start chatting about that webinar. So I was on a webinar on Wednesday morning. I posted about it on LinkedIn yesterday, just with some of my takeaways, just because I'm running late on time here. I won't go into full detail, but I was one of the 2 panelists of a great webinar on Wednesday. AI Revolution in Business Immigration, How to Navigate Threats and Unlock Opportunities, hosted by Journey. Marianella and Journey are great. Zainab, who's also great, a fellow immigration lawyer, and I were interviewed about AI applications, the good, the bad, how IRCC is using it, how immigration firms can use it. I'll link to this post in the comments right now if you want to take a look. And there's also a link to the recording, I think somewhere in the comments. There's a recording up on YouTube. So if you do... Oh, crap. Maybe it's not in the comments. Let me get the link for you guys now. Or here, if you just look up Journey on YouTube. Journey Business Plans. Here it is. I'll link to it in the comments here. It was a really, really fun webinar. and I highly recommend it. I'm obviously biased, but especially if you're interested in AI and the conversion or the overlap with immigration, then I highly recommend it. Earl says, I agree the expression of interest system is really the only comprehensive solution on the minister's desk. Unfortunately, we cannot trust provinces to curate DLI lists, proven time and time again. Okay, so Earl, I didn't know it's the provinces that that kind of curate the DLI lists, which is, I don't know, I guess unfortunate. I guess the problem is the provinces are so incentivized to bring in large amounts of international students that they maybe make it easier to get and keep the DLI designation. I don't know. Let's keep moving on, folks, just because I do like to keep these to like 40 minutes, and we're already pushing the 35-minute mark because I was so fired up about that topic, which is a good thing, right? And thanks for everybody for, jumping in with your comments as well. Really big update for Visto, right? So really quickly, as most of you know, Visto is an immigration tech platform. I'll share my screen quickly. I mean, you know it. If you follow me, you know Visto, right? We help immigration firms and professionals prep applications faster than ever before. You can check us out at Visto.ai. I'll put a link to it in the comments and or the description wherever you're watching this on. Oh, excuse me. We've had a really good last 5-6 months, and very excited to announce for the first time, I think this is the first time this is being publicly announced, that we did raise a little bit more money. We closed the round, or we're in the midst of signing the last documents today to raise a little bit more money from some of our previous investors who've been extremely supportive of the company and who believe, like we do, that immigration is so important and we need the right software and tools to kind of make it better. So why is this important for you? 2 reasons. Number one, since we've raised a little bit more money, we can grow our team and continue to build our platform even quicker. So if you are an immigration professional and you're interested in some software to help save time and do your work and operations and prep applications much quicker, definitely check us out. And our new features are going to be built and added in even faster. Secondly, because we have to hire, which means I will probably post this on Monday or Tuesday, but we will actually be hiring for 2 positions. So if you like Visto, if you like me, if you like the idea of working in the immigration tech industry, we will be hiring probably starting next week, mostly in either engineering and or sales and customer success. So we need more software developers to work with Alex, who's our CTO, so that we can continue building the platform, as well as in the sales department, that person will be more working with me. Opportunities, webinars, outbound sales, inbound sales, product demos, all that kind of stuff. So anyways, again, I will make the post official probably on Monday or Tuesday with actual job descriptions. But if you're an immigration professional, that could be exciting because our product's going to get even better, even faster. If you are interested in Visto, send me a message either way or send me a request, and I'm happy to schedule a demo, show you how it works. If you are looking for a job and you have experience in sales and or you're a full stack software developer, then stay tuned. We will probably have a job description or 2 out early next week. I think that's exciting. I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comments. Maybe not, but big news for us, right? Very good, exciting news for us. Last thing, I may need your help. Here's why. As a lot of you know, I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. And right before I started streaming today, I had 14,995 followers. I really want to get to 15,000 followers. Let me take a quick look. I might need like 1 or 2 more. Like, look at this. I'm at 14,996 followers. If you're watching right now and you're not connected, send me a connection request. I need 4 new connections to hit the 15,000 follower mark, and connections, right? Most of my followers I'm actually connected with, right? Not just thousands of people following me and, one-sided. So if you're watching right now, or if you're watching after the fact on YouTube, I might have already hit that mark if you're watching too late after the fact on YouTube. But for those who are watching right now on LinkedIn, please, if we're not connected, send me a friend request. I got to hit that 15,000 mark. Really excited. If you have any questions about growing on LinkedIn, then feel free to reach out anytime, right? What I've learned the hard way is that you don't get to this many followers without posting quality content consistently, right? Over a long period of time. So I'll probably maybe share a little bit more about, growing a presence, growing a brand, growing a following on LinkedIn and stuff like that. But my goodness, if you could follow me or send me a connection request on LinkedIn, help me get to that 15K mark. That'll be exciting. Anyways, that is it from my end. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, now is the time. Runali says, how can we request GCMS notes? You can do that right online, Runali. So GCMS notes, just make sure it's on the Government of Canada website, right? It's I think formally called an ATIP, right? Access to Information Act, or whatever. Applying online is fast and convenient. Here, I'll put a link to this in the comments for you, Runali. I highly recommend doing it online, right? If you click apply online, follow the instructions. I think, you got to follow this. You got to click I understand, bloobity blah. And then obviously when you get to the department, you want to select IRCC, right? Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, and follow the instructions from there. So I think as long as you're inside Canada, you can submit an ATIP request. Yeah, access to information and privacy, online request. If you're outside Canada, I don't think you can, so you might have to go through a service provider. But if you are inside Canada, I think it just costs like $5, right, to just do it yourself. So anyways, keep that in mind. Much appreciated, Josh. My pleasure, Runali. That's it for me today. Folks, that was a big session. You got a big rant out of me. Hopefully you enjoyed. Just to wrap up, if you're not already following me on LinkedIn, make sure to connect. I go live like this every 2 weeks, Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern. If you like what you hear, you like what you see, give it a thumbs up. Maybe send the recording to a friend who might be interested in tuning in next time. The recording of this will also be posted on YouTube. I'll have that posted probably within the next hour. So make sure to follow us, like, and subscribe, all that jazz on YouTube. I'll put the link in the comments here on LinkedIn. If you're watching on YouTube, you don't have to do anything because you've already seen us on YouTube. But if you're not subscribed and if you haven't liked the video yet, that is really helpful for us as well. Thank you for tuning in. We had a whole bunch of people tune in and share their opinions, share their thoughts. That's what makes this the most fun for me, right? I don't just want to talk at a screen for 40 minutes. It's great that we had a whole bunch of people live. Verinder says, thank you, Josh. Big thanks, Verinder, for tuning in. To Runali, who shared some of her background and information. To Earl, who shared some great opinions. To Andra, who fact-checked me on the DLI part. So anyways, thank you everybody for tuning in, for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your Friday and weekend if you are watching this live, or whatever the heck day it is whenever you're watching on this recording. Thanks again for tuning in. I will see you 2 weeks from now for the next one. Take care, everybody.